I think when you're selecting what you're going to do next, your top priority ought to be learning and growing. Not making a lot of money, learning and growing. And I strongly encourage you to build a strong foundation of experiences. And if you're going to be the CEO and a founder of a company, I think you should learn how to sell. You really ought to learn how to get orders. If you don't find customers and customers are going to pay for what you're doing, you're going to fail. You don't need to learn that in a startup. You can learn that on somebody else's nickel. You also ought to learn something about management, leading a team of at least a dozen or so employees. And then, whatever the stage of your development, I think it's really important to always network, to develop personal and lifelong networks, to have the confidence to cold call anybody that matters to you. I remember when I was looking for my first job in Silicon Valley, I made a point of interviewing with 35 companies. I didn't care what my grades were. I wanted to talk to Hewlett-Packard and talk to Intel, talk to Fairchild and talk to Oracle and make those networks stay alive. These are like not LinkedIn networks, they're not social networks, they're personal networks. And if you're uncomfortable at networking, get outside your comfort zone. Learn how to do that really well. If you're uncomfortable with public speaking, get really good at public speaking. I think people are judged by their ability to think and speak on their feet more than any other skill. I do think it's a great thing to, if you're lucky enough to find and try to sustain a couple of mentors, and then pick your spot. Try to get in on the ground floor of a company that could be enormous for a couple reasons. One, those companies tend to attract really good people you're going to learn more from. And second, when the organization grows really rapidly, you're going to be pulled right along because the organization trusts you. And to get ahead, you don't have to elbow somebody else out of the way. In 1974, that was Intel. In 2001, it's Google. We can talk about where that might be next. I think it's important to be very choiceful about your field. It's easier to change where you work, the company, than it is to move out of one field into another. If you're passionate about healthcare, great, choose that as a field. If you're passionate about media, that's another kind of field. I do think you ought to swing for the fences. Join a startup or start up your own company when the time is right. But I deeply believe you have a lot of time in which to do that. Yeah, we're all short of time, but if you can learn a lot about growing companies from Uber, or if you, Square, whatever it is, I think you'll move faster, further. And here's why. I think your ambition ought to be a leader.